Colleagues, Council, as you know, at the end of June welcomed and approved Leading the Way Monash 2020. I think that's a very interesting document. I'm excited by it. I hope you are too. It builds, of course, on our two first Monash plans, which were, as you'll remember, a combination of strategic planning and operational planning. At the beginning of this year, when we were looking to move towards rolling those forward, or the next iteration of that plan, it became clear from the sounding board meetings that David Phillips and Maren Evans and others were having with colleagues across the campuses, that many staff were seeking a better and clearer picture of where we're going to be with rather a longer time horizon than just the 5 years. In a sense, 5 years in university life is not very long, so we needed to have a clearer picture further out, and that's what Leading the Way Monash 2020 is all about. It builds, of course, on those three defining themes that we've got to know and love, innovation, engagement and internationalisation, which themselves didn't come out of the ether. They're defining themes that have informed Monash from day one. We're still less than 40 years old, but those three themes have always informed our activities. We've always wanted to be innovative, trying to set the agenda. We haven't wanted to be cloistered. We have wanted to engage with the broader communities that we serve. And right from day one, we have welcomed international students, had an international curriculum, broken down disciplinary boundaries to create area studies, and have been seen to play an increasingly important international role. The focus in Monash 2020 will still reflect the core academic themes of educating scholars and professionals and advancing and applying knowledge, still picking up the key themes of infrastructure and, of course, finance. It provides a framework now, and it won't be produced every year. We'll produce another version of it when we think we need one, because either the internal or the external world has changed sufficiently for the document not to really guide our actions. But it will, until then, guide our operational planning in faculties and in administrative units, and it will inform the budget, which of course underpins all our activities. This Leading the Way Monash 2020 contains, or rather re-emphasises or emphasises additionally, two things that we talked about in earlier versions. One is internal differentiation and the other is self-reliance. Let me just touch on internal differentiation. When any organisation goes through a set of mergers of the kind we have, there's then a tendency to go through a period of consolidation in the sense of playing down the internal differences, playing up the things that are common, and in a sense pretending that everything internally is the same. Now that applies at the level of systems and institutions and sub-institutions. If we think of the Dawkins reforms and the system we all inherited post-Dawkins, in those early years, and certainly when I came to Australia in 1992, AVCC spent all its time pretending that there were no differences between institutions. Everybody tried to speak with one voice on everything, and of course it was a nightmare and a charade. Now the system is legitimately noticing and celebrating its internal differentiation. So we have the Australian Technology Network, the Group of 8, the regionals, and other groupings will emerge, and quite right too. Monash, exactly the same, went through a phase when everything was felt to be and had to be presented as being the same. Now we're confident enough and mature enough to understand what our internal differentiation is, whether that's at the level of our campuses. So now we're going to formulate campus directional statements which make it quite clear what the role of each campus is within the broader Monash, and that is now sitting on the desks of campus directors, and they will move forward on that. At faculty level, again, take the Faculty of Business and Economics, massive faculty in anybody's language, inherited different streams of activity from different prior institutions. Now it's gone through its internal review of its programs, different families of programs, addressing particular audiences, making sure that the right programs are geared for the right people, but also being flexible enough to enable any particular person, whatever entry point they use into the faculty, can move through internal pathways and go away with the appropriate award that reflects their intellectual strength and their career aspirations. That's internal differentiation, and we must be much clearer about and capitalise on the strengths of our differentiation. Self-reliance, we've said in the earlier versions of Leading the Way that we must be self-reliant. We know what that means. That's being not too over-dependent upon any one particular source of funds. We know that DECHA money has been declining, money for higher education in the sense of the dollars per student have been declining in most developed higher education systems over the last 20 years. And we are getting to the point now where any further declines will put very serious question marks over our ability to continue to provide an adequate and well, the kind of educational experience that ought to be provided in a great institution like this. The pressures on staff and facilities are such that we can't go on much longer having a declining value of DECHA dollar. So we have to get additional dollars from other sources. We know all about that, and we shall continue to do so. And there are some fairly interesting targets set for 2020 in terms of developing new sources of income and looking for new sets of students who can benefit from the Monash experience. The additional point this time round is that we're saying we do not want to be over-dependent on one country, namely Australia. And so again, who knows what the state of Australia or its economy will be in 2020. We want to be able to have a presence in other places in order to spread that risk and not to be too over-dependent on that particular feature of our environment. That leads to the third of our, I suppose, defining features, the two core academic ones, educating scholars and professionals, advancing and applying knowledge. Becoming global runs across those, of course. It's not a separate thing, it's a feature of them all. And we now will have at the November Council meeting the Monash Global Plan. And there are two main strategies outlined now in Leading the Way for Monash to become global. One is to establish campuses. The first one, as we know, was established in Kuala Lumpur last year, and in the next 10 years, who knows, we may have another one or maybe two. The second strand is to establish ourselves in very close collaboration in highly developed higher education systems with a small number of major institutions. And again, the first of those strategic alliances was formed recently, and Dick White will go and look after the development of that relationship, which places us, Monash, in the heart of King's College, London, on the Strand, from which we shall deliver programmes, do joint research, do things no doubt together in third places, and look for a whole range of ways in which we can work together for mutual advantage. Now, why are we doing that? That's a question that's often raised, and colleagues wonder whether it's just for fun. Well, it isn't, although it ought to be fun, and it's interesting, it's exciting, and a lot of people are involved, and I know that's the way they feel about it. Other people think it's just for dollars, related to the spreading risk, diversifying our sources of income. Yes, there is that too. We are able in those arrangements, and particularly new campuses as the years go by, to reinvest money in our own activities and to provide the kind of environment that one cannot provide if one relied purely on DECHA dollars, which, as I say, have declined in value to an extent that if we relied totally on those, the kind of educational and research experience we could provide would be paltry. The real reason we are doing this and becoming global is driven by an educational imperative. It is absolutely essential for our students to be able to move as part of their award course, part of their educational experience with us, to have an experience in other countries. If they're going to be the kind of citizens of the world that we want to produce, that employers want, and that the state and the nation needs, that is quite clear. And one way of doing it is, of course, to create our own ports of call so that students can move from the first year of a degree course at Caulfield and the second year in Kuala Lumpur, the third year in London, the fourth year maybe back at Clayton, who knows. They would be unbelievably attractive graduates. I was in Singapore over last weekend at graduations, and we had a dinner for employers in Singapore who employ our Australian graduates and also our Singaporean graduates who return to Singapore. And they made it quite clear that if we could get off the ground in any significant way the plans we have for enabling students to do the kind of movement around our own system that we create, they would be absolutely knocking on our door for those graduates, just the kind of graduates they want. Similarly, staff would have the opportunity to, again, get overseas experience and additional overseas experience, working with us, working with colleagues in other institutions in that country where we have a significant presence, again, providing an additional range of opportunities for staff. And thirdly, I suppose, without being daft about it, Monash will be making a major contribution to the development of this nation. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that higher education is, well, obviously we know it's crucial infrastructure. I think it's absolutely vital that we produce the right kind of graduates for the future of this nation. My view is that higher education is a foreign affair. It's part of the defining nature of the nation. Universities have probably got better international relations than any other sector of the economy or life or structure of our society, and we will be leading the way in all those developments. I know you'll be discussing in faculties and units the operationalization of leading the way and modifying the next iteration of your operational plans against the background that's set out in the document that I said at the beginning. I think is exciting, I think it's inspiring me, it's impressing other people, but we'd better go and deliver it. Thank you.